Welcome, dear viewers. Today we embark on a magical journey through the timeless tale of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. This story is filled with adventure, friendship, and the triumph of good over evil. Let's begin. Once upon a time, in a grand castle surrounded by lush greenery, lived a princess named Snow White. She shared the castle with her father, the king, and her stepmother, the queen. The king always emphasized the importance of fairness, reminding Snow White that a royal family must be just and impartial. The queen, however, was obsessed with being the fairest in the land. She often consulted her magic mirror, asking, "Mirror, mirror on the wall, who is the fairest of them all?" To her dismay, the mirror always replied, "Snow White is the fairest of them all." Enraged and jealous, the queen decided to eliminate Snow White. She ordered a huntsman to take Snow White into the woods and kill her, but the huntsman, moved by Snow White's kindness, couldn't bring himself to do it. Instead, he urged her to flee into the forest. Snow White ran deeper and deeper into the dark woods, frightened and alone. Just when she thought she could run no more, she spotted a light in the distance. It led her to a small, cozy cottage. Inside the cottage, Snow White found a mess. She decided to clean up, hoping to earn her stay for the night. As she cleaned, she reminisced about a prince she once knew, wondering if she would ever see him again. That evening, the Seven Dwarfs returned from their work in the jewel mines. They were astonished to find their cottage spotless. When they discovered Snow White asleep in their attic, they were equally surprised and curious. Snow White introduced herself and shared her story. The dwarfs, moved by her plight, invited her to stay with them. In return, Snow White offered to help around the house and even teach them to read. Meanwhile, back at the castle, the queen discovered through her magic mirror that Snow White was still alive. Furious, she disguised herself as an old woman and set out to find Snow White. The queen, disguised as an old woman, knocked on the cottage door, offering a poisoned apple. Despite the dwarf's warning, Snow White, moved by pity, opened the door and took a bite of the apple. She immediately fell into a deep sleep. The dwarfs returned to find Snow White unconscious and the queen gloating. They chased the queen up a mountain, where she met her end in a storm, but Snow White remained in her deep sleep. One day, the prince, who had been searching for Snow White, arrived at the cottage. He kissed her hand, breaking the spell with love's first kiss. Snow White awoke, and the dwarfs cheered with joy. Snow White and the prince, reunited at last, returned to his kingdom. They bid a fond farewell to the Seven Dwarfs and lived happily ever after. And so, dear viewers, ends the tale of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. A story that reminds us of the power of kindness, bravery, and true love. Thank you for joining us on this magical journey.
Until next time, keep believing in fairy tales.